Nothing makes a burger better than bacon and barbecue on a new Hawaiian bun from Braum's. A quarter pound of 100% pure beef, 2 slices of pepper jack cheese, hickory smoked bacon, rings of onions and pickles. Then we pour on the rich, thick barbecue sauce. Oh man, a bigger, better built barbecue bacon cheeseburger on a new Hawaiian bun for a limited time at your neighborhood Braum's. Oh yeah.
Well, everyone, once again, welcome to another edition of Dodger Dialogue presented by Braum's Ice Cream and Dairy. I'm Alex Friedman, joined by Logan Bawcom from his home in Dallas. Logan, currently a free agent, but has spent a lot of his career in Oklahoma City, parts of the 2016, 18, and 19 seasons. Right now, again, with his 2 kids at home in Dallas. And Logan, first and foremost, how have you and your family been doing during this kind of weird and strange time?
We've been good, just trying to stay busy, trying to stay afloat like most of, Americans and even minor leaguers. Just trying to do what we can to get through all this and do our part with kind of things are opening up a little bit now, but before that, just staying home and trying to stay quarantined. And then with that, trying to entertain the kids inside of our home and, going on walks here and there, riding bikes whenever we can, just to kind of get out and get some fresh air. But it's been testy at times, just being in a house all together. At the same time, it's been really good to I'm not used to being home this much, obviously, during the summer. So it's my first summer home in 10 years. So
I think you're the first person we've had on who has young kids at home. So what's been like the parental hack you and your wife have had to come up with, just like when all else fails? Hopefully we can go to this and things will calm down, or else the kids will be occupied for a bit.
The thing we've made work the best was probably early on when we'd just go for walks. We'd throw, because we have a little girl, she turns 3 at the end of this month, and the little boy, he turns 1 in the end of July. So he's 11 months just about. And so, you got to keep them busy. And so we'd go on walks, throw them in the stroller, just so they get out. Because when they're outside, they love it. And just playing on the back deck, out back, I built a deck last off season, and they love it. And then if all else fails, then you go to the iPad. But I try to stay away from that as much as possible. We hide it. That's like dire situations where, we need to get something done around the house and just need some peace and quiet for an hour.
Yeah.
And we give her that, and she watches her princess, name a Disney princess, and she loves her. So, yeah.
All right. Well, we mentioned earlier you're a free agent heading into the season, and obviously still available, but everyone's kind of in this holding pattern right now. So what are you doing right now as opposed to maybe you were doing it in February, March? Is it just more of the same, or is it a little bit different?
There's no real start date, and even when there is a start date, then I have to get picked up. So I'm kind of like still getting ready for spring training essentially. But I'm still playing catch, 4 to 5 times a week with Ryan Mosley, a guy in AA with the Dodgers. He lives here in Dallas. So me and him play catch, 4 or 5 times a week, trying to take the weekends off and stuff. And so I'm still gearing up, getting ready, throwing pins, once a week here and there. Just trying to stay sharp and everything. And so just waiting on kind of a schedule of if something's going to kick off. And if it is, then maybe sign here, and if not, maybe go over, to Mexico or something like that. And if none of those, then hang them up and start my next career. I'm not real sure about that either. So,
well, we might talk about some of your other endeavors coming up later here, but let's kind of go back to the formative years. You grew up in Midland, Texas. What was it about baseball that really kind of drew you to be something you wanted to pursue?
Honestly, I just loved sports growing up. Just always played. My older brother played all the sports, and since so did I. My dad just, taught us that competition brings out really good things in you and teaches you a lot about life, especially sports. Growing up, I was playing football in the fall, and then roll straight into basketball, and then straight into football or baseball, and then, I played a little soccer growing up too, and indoor soccer, all that stuff growing up. And just loved to compete and loved everything about sports. And then when it came to baseball, it's kind of when I got to high school and I was like, I'm a lot better at this than I am in some of the other sports. And maybe I can get, scholarship and help my parents out and pay for school, get a degree and all that stuff. And I was like, maybe this will be my ticket to getting a degree. So went that route and then luckily got drafted. Didn't think it would ever happen, but it did. So.
Well, yeah, as you mentioned, you first go to junior college, then to UT Arlington. You get drafted by the Dodgers, 2010. So you just said you weren't sure if that would ever happen. So let's go leading up to the draft. Was it still like, I don't really know, or did you have a feeling you might get drafted at that point?
Yeah, I'll take you back. Like senior year, I was a chunky shortstop that had no reason to be playing shortstop and would pitch a little bit on the side there. And I was like, there's no way I can go to Division I. I'll get, lost and never play and, maybe get cut. So I went to JUCO right there in town and learned how to play baseball, got in shape. Then went to UTA that year and started throwing a little bit harder once I wasn't doing the two-way stuff near as much. I wasn't playing third and first base every day. I was predominantly just, starting on Sundays and closing on like Fridays here and there. And so started throwing a little bit harder and started kind of getting some attention from scouts. Plus we had an amazing first rounder, Michael Choice, who was on our team. So I always text him and tell him thank you all the time for having 1,000 scouts there every weekend, every Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So that really helped for sure. And just, I really didn't know until, they started reaching out and be like, hey, here's this questionnaire. And I'm like, this team? And I just, come draft day, I was like, oh my goodness, this is happening.
So then Dodgers call you, or eventually pick you 17th round that year. So tell us about what happened when you did get that call.
Yeah, draft day was crazy. I was in my apartment in Arlington because I was planning on going back to school because, gearing up for, I think I had signed up for 2 summer classes and was getting ready for that. And they called the very beginning of the second day. Back then they had 50 rounds. God, I sound like a dinosaur right now. they had 50 rounds and they just had the first round was on the first day in the supplemental. And then the next day was like 2 through 30. And so like they called me like in the second round, the Dodgers did. And they were like, hey, we're looking to take you in the next few rounds. And I'm like, what? Like top this round? Like what? Like just didn't believe it. And I told them, I wanted this X amount of money. And then I didn't hear a phone call for about an hour or two. And I was like, I'm done. I told them way too much money. That was dumb. And then sure enough, I get a call from the Padres in I think it was the 15th or 16th. They're like, hey, we're taking you with our next pick, but you never know what's going to happen with that. And then in the 17th, the Dodgers took me right before. I think they were like 2 picks before the Padres. So, been a Dodger most of my career now. So
yeah, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But first, I want to talk about this year. The draft is coming up this week. It's only going to be 5 rounds now. We don't know how it's going to be further on. Next year, I've heard it's probably going to expand back in the range of 20, but it is only going to be 5 this year. We just mentioned your guy who drafted and signed his 17th round pick. So what are your thoughts on really shortening the draft down this season?
5. It's tough. Just there was only like a month of the college season, if even. Give or take. So, hopefully scouts were out looking at them and kind of doing their due diligence. And I think there's probably a lot of showcase and different things going on now that will help them. But, this is a weird time. So, for 5 rounds, it's kind of going to be – I feel like on like a player development side, like who was scouting the best, because then you can probably pick up some really good players still, that you would have picked up in the later rounds that are still out there that aren't going to go in 5 rounds. So, I understand it being shorter this year just because – there's a lot of factors in it with, there's no income right now for teams and everything. So, I can see that side of it, but I think to shorten it for 5 rounds forever, that wouldn't be, I don't think, wise.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's been no shortage of ink or words typed recently that's talked about guys who have been drafted after the 5th round and all that. And it certainly puts a lot of pressure on the teams to make sure you're going to do that. And I think scouting, as has been proven, it's a lot more difficult in baseball than it is in football, basketball, and all that stuff. So about 2 years after you get drafted and signed, you get traded to the Mariners, and part of a trade for Brandon League. And, at the time, again, you were a college guy, a reliever who would put up good numbers, but we're not blazing up maybe necessarily any prospect lists, and maybe the kind of guy that isn't typically put in a trade like that. So how surprised were you when you learned about that?
Oh, very. I mean, I was in Huntsville, Alabama. I remember in AA, and just, is when you're in the locker room, everyone's talking during trade deadline. Everyone's talking. That was when Twitter was first starting to kind of get big, and all the trade rumors. It's not like what it is now, but it used to, get big, and people would talk about, oh, this guy's going to get traded this one. And I never once saw my name in a trade, proposition or anything like that. So I was like, okay, this probably isn't going to happen. I'm still going to be here, even though like our whole AA team just about got traded that year. Like a lot of us did. And sure enough, I was about to go to sleep. It was after the game, and get a phone call from our player development guy, Deshaun Watson. He's like, hey, been traded. And I was like, what? And so just like all the rush of things coming through your mind with like, what am I going to do? How am I going to get back to Chattanooga? How am I going to pack my apartment up? I don't even know where their AA is. Where is their AA? And then you just have all these thoughts going through your head. And, it was crazy time, but it was pretty cool. Pretty cool.
So you spend the next few years in the Mariners organization, then come back to the Dodgers, picked up in the Rule 5 draft heading the 2016 season. Then after some time with the Padres and A's, back with the Dodgers parts of 2018 and 2019, signing as a free agent. So you've been through the Dodgers organization when you're just starting your career, now here in the latter part of your career as well. What are some of the kind of changes you've seen? Because it does span a few different front office regimes and player development systems as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, when I first came up, this is the first time I haven't had a beard in a while, but like when it first came up, you had to be clean shaven. You had to have elastic in your pants, and it was just a much more, strict, regime that we had in player development, which wasn't a bad thing. You do what you got to do. Like the Yankees and a few other teams are still like that. It's just how baseball is. And so came through that. I left for 3.5 years to the Mariners, and there was no rules over there with facial hair and different stuff. And then I came back in 16, and it was a completely different. I mean, we're talking maybe one or two coaches, three coaches, maybe. I mean, there was a few that I even knew. And I've been with them for 2 years, so like I knew pretty much everybody. Two or three spring trainings. I don't remember how many it was, but knew quite a bit of people, and everyone was gone. It was a whole new staff and everything, and it was crazy. It was dudes with long hair and big beards, and I was like, what's going on here? And it's really cool though. I mean, I've been with them off and on, I think like 4 different times, and I mean, the Dodgers are the best, dude. They're really, really good from top to bottom. Everything they do is first class, and so I always love coming back, obviously.
Yeah, and I know you and I have talked about that before. The last 2 seasons kind of got a call after spring training had started, maybe even into the regular season, with an offer to come back. And I know it's like you just said, it seems like it's been a pretty easy decision each time.
Yeah, I mean, the last few years I had to go. Let's see, it was in 18. I had to go play indie ball for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then ended up signing with Dodgers in 18, and then last year it was like pretty much right after spring training. So, I mean, on the good side, I got to miss spring training because I've been to a lot of those. They're all kind of the same, and you're just getting ready essentially for the season. So, I got to do that at home last 2 years, and I mean, even this year I wasn't signed for that week or two that they had spring training out there, and so it's been kind of nice, because I'm a big family man, so I love being at home as much as I can, and that's the beautiful part about the Dodgers being in OKC now. That's only 3 hours from home. So like anytime we had an off day, I would sprint home after a night game. It's just really nice to have. So having that extra time here with the family's been awesome.
So whereas most pitchers, kind of the typical path is you go from a starter to a reliever. You've been the opposite, really, here in the last few years of your career. And granted, fill in any role that you're asked to do, and that's, I think, why you've been such an important part of the team, over the last few years. But how has it been, going from the reliever to the starter, where you got to learn to pace yourself a little bit more, but you're also doing it as you're getting older and further into your career?
Yeah, I mean, I started in college, so I kind of have that, background a little bit. And then once I got drafted, they kind of ask you, they asked me if I wanted to do which one. I was like, probably relief, because there's a lot of first rounders that are starters, and I'm probably not going to move before they do. So that's why I was like, let's do the bullpen path. I like to come to the field every day and know I'm going to pitch. And so I did that, closed pretty much my whole career leading up to, maybe like 2014, and then did like a lot of long relief and stuff there. And then 16, when I came back to the Dodgers, I was long relieving. And ended up, backing up. We had a lot of big league rehab guys that year, so I'd back them up in Double-A and then follow them to Triple-A and then go back and then back up the next guy. And so I was getting built up 2, 3, 4 innings, and then had a spot start, right at the end of June in 16, and ended up going like 4 or 5, and then next time went 5, and then kind of just stayed in there. For some reason, I was on a roll and just, was in the zone and putting up zeros and stuff, and had the best year of my career that year, becoming a starter. And I was like, this is weird. I've been a reliever my whole life, and then now I'm a starter. And I treat it all kind of the same, go out there and put up a zero any way possible. Obviously there's different situations, if you're pitching the 9th inning and the 1st inning, but, being an older guy, you kind of know that stuff. And so it's definitely been not a normal path that most players take, but I've definitely enjoyed, starting. Get to play a little more golf too, so it's been kind of nice.
That's what's most important. And I've been doing a lot during this time, just kind of looking back, especially during the Dodgers' 5 years of affiliation. That 2016 pitching staff that, like you said, really kind of you came into a role as a starter unexpectedly. As you, Brock Stewart, as he was coming up, Trevor Oakes, Jose De Leon, Julio Urias. Sam LeCure was, did everything, that was asked of him from that team. And really, you look back and it's the best, statistically speaking, best pitching staff, the team has had, at least during its PCL era since 1998. That 2016 team also got all the way to the PCL finals, one of the few times that team has been able to do it. And it was an epic playoff series against Nashville when you pitched. I believe it was game 2, great game. The unbelievable game 5. Just that whole playoff series. What do you got smiles on your face and shaking your head? What do you remember about that team and that playoff series?
That team was so much fun. Just from top to bottom, we had guys go up. It happens in September, and the guys, were still there. We had a lot of veteran guys. And we just had so much fun. We were busting each other's chops all the time, and just would go out there and we just knew we were going to win, every night we went out there. And then that game, in the playoffs and the PCL, some people want to be there, some don't. Some want to be in the big league, some want to be home. It just depends. And so everybody wanted to be there, and it was fun. We had that game 5 we were in Nashville, their new stadium, and it was, back and forth. We'd hit a go-ahead homer, then they would come back and tie it, and you're sitting there. I'm sitting there because I'm slotted to throw game 1 of the championship. So I'm sitting there like, oh, I got to stay focused like this, like got to stay locked in, whatnot, and then it's like, oh, no, now it's the off season because we're losing. And then you just back and forth. And then we ended up winning. And then you're like, we ended up getting on a flight straight to El Paso, I believe.
Yep.
I went home. I don't even remember which one it was, but it was just, it was crazy. And just that back and forth. I hadn't been a part of anything like that, especially the playoff atmosphere, and everybody really wanting it. And it was a really memorable game.
Yeah, and it ended with the bases loaded as well. Jake Braum getting a pop-up to end it with the bases loaded. I think the second out was Matt Olson, who's now gone on to just kill it in the big leagues with Oakland. You're also part of the team in 2018, which had maybe the most game 5 of the Nashville series, probably the one of the best single games I've been a part of. What happened at the end of the 2018 regular season in Colorado Springs over about 36-hour period? It might even be less than 36 hours.
I don't remember. I remember we were slotted to have 5 games in 4 days to finish.
That's how it was supposed to start. Yeah.
I think that's what it was supposed to start as. So going in, most people watching this, you don't know, Colorado Springs is a tough place to play regardless. You're at high altitude, so it's terrible to pitch at. Nothing does what it's supposed to do. You get gassed as a pitcher quicker. And so, to be able to play 5 games, just from a position player standpoint, thinking of them, it's tough. And so we ended up getting rained out one day, or 2 days, I don't remember. But we played a ton of games in like 48 hours. Yeah. And we had to pretty much sweep them because they were like 2 or 3 games.
Literally.
So we had to win every single game there. And like, same thing I was saying earlier, like some guys want to go to the playoffs, some guys don't. Some guys want to go to the big leagues, some guys want to go home. You know, it just depends. So we somehow went in there and we swept them every game. It was one of the craziest things I've ever been a part of. I mean, I think it's just that Haas spirit. Yeah. You know, when Haas is our manager. And it was one of those things, like he had us ready to go every day. And we looked up and we were popping champagne in the locker room, the very last game ever played there for a AAA team, at least. And it was crazy. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, for those who don't know, it was, so Saturday's game got suspended due to rain. It was like a 3.5 hour delay before they officially called it. So resume it the next day, win that one. That was a 7-inning game because it was supposed to be part of a doubleheader originally. Then you play a 9-inning game after that, win that one. Then it became college baseball. Like you just kept forcing more games. You win, you keep forcing more games, and then it set up a doubleheader on the final day in which the Dodgers over the 14 innings, just crushed them. I mean, every single inning. I think it was a lot of what you said. The guys, even some of which were disappointed because it happened right after September call-ups. But as you mentioned, Bill Hasselman, if he's in a dugout or if he's in a clubhouse, he's going to compete to win every single day, which is not necessarily true of every single minor league manager.
Just talked to him today too.
Yeah, he called me the other day out of the blue, yeah. So that's funny. So Haas,
also remember I didn't have a single base hit all year, and I was so mad. So Haas always would pinch hit me, and I got a base hit off Tim Dillard in like the 6th or 7th inning, and we were just, we had that last game, we had just killed them. They had just flat out given up because, I mean, it was the last game. We were probably up 10 maybe, there, and so I think they were just over it. And he pinch hit me, and I got a little base hit in the 6th hole, and I was like, thank you, I didn't go over on the year.
So during your time in Oklahoma City, you've always been one of the first people to always raise your hand to do stuff with community appearances, stuff, whether it's at the ballpark, off-site. Why is that so important to you to participate in?
It's what I believe in, baseball is what I do. It's not who I am. And so just having that mindset of, that Christ-like mindset of just being a servant. We have an awesome platform as baseball players to, go and serve. And when I was in Tacoma, I loved going to the Children's Hospital and then being able to, go to the food banks and stuff in Oklahoma. Oklahoma City has been nice, and just all the different stuff, having kids come to the ballpark and just getting to sign autographs for them. Like that's stuff that I remember when I was a kid. And so just being able to give back a little bit, it takes an hour out of your day. Like, we're not that important, but they think we are. So you might as well, put our best foot forward and, take that hour out of the day and you make that kid's, could make his life. You don't even know. So, just being that servant mindset and just, helping out when I can. And they do a really good job of plugging us into the community, and I really do appreciate that.
We appreciate everything you did for sure. And another place where they really think you're important is when you go play winter ball like you did this past winter in the Dominican. And if you guys don't follow Logan on social media, you should go on his Instagram, see some of the videos he posted, especially like the celebrations, pitching in the Dominican Republic. You hear from guys like yourself. Just the atmosphere that's like, but in your words, tell us about that experience and maybe what did it live up to what you're expecting, or was it different?
I've been to Venezuela in 13, and I'd heard, the Dominican was awesome, and it was, it lived up to all that and more. I had an absolute blast. Baseball's kind of big over here. Over there, that's all it is. Like, you can take your NFL fans, your baseball fans here, your basketball fans, roll them all up into one, and that's what you get over there. And it's just, they live, eat, and breathe baseball. That's all they do. You drive down the street and there's kids playing, instead of going to school. It's just how that culture is over there. And so that's their, 3 to 4 months of, getting to see their big leaguers that they see on TV, getting to see them up close and personal. And so every game means so much there. Everyone has their team there, and they root for them wholeheartedly. And it's pretty stinking awesome. And I had an absolute blast for the 2+ months I was over there.
Is there anything you wish that you could take from that setting and apply it to maybe baseball here in the U.S.?
Their passion. I mean,
right.
Sometimes, a lot of the times, like the older you get, the more it becomes a business here, and you kind of see that side of it. And over there, you just don't see that. You don't see the business side of it because guys just love the game. They would play for free. I mean, they just don't even care. It's baseball, 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 and that's all that's on their mind, and they just want to go out there and win. And you notice that a little bit when you're over here in the States, and, it comes playoff time, and all the Dominican guys are just going crazy, and they love it. And it's just because, that's just – they're used to that. They're used to playoff atmosphere every single time at Winter Bowl. And so I had a blast over there. And so the passion that they have, I mean, it's frowned upon over here some. I'm kind of in between the new school and the old school, kind of tugged between, you show too much emotion, you're going to get hit. If guy, pimps the home run, he's going to get hit the next time. There's times and places for those things. But over there, I mean, they're bat flipping singles and, fist pumping, strike threes on guys with bases loaded. It's the passion there is awesome. It really is.
And I think we're seeing that for the people who watch some of the games that are be playing over in Korea right now, some of the similar things. And I think although a lot of people would agree and say, yes, yeah, we want to see more of that stuff, you also have to realize it's not going to be an overnight change either. It'll permeate itself and maybe get to that point. But like you said, there are a lot of people who are still gonna, still kind of want to find that balance between the two, and hopefully we will at some point. So, in addition to having 10 seasons of professional baseball underneath your belt, you have a lot of skills in other areas too. You have your own furniture building, kind of little home. I don't know if home remodeling is the right term exactly, but yeah, but interior. You're good with things on the interior, building furniture, stuff like that. Bach Design Co. So how did you first get into that stuff, and where can people kind of see some of your work?
I mean, in high school, I did wood shop and stuff like that, and then didn't really use it, here and there. My dad always had tools, and my gramps, he always had a shed in the back where he'd build birdhouses and different stuff, and I'd hang out with him growing up. And so just, and then having an engineering background. I was a mechanical engineering major in college. And so I've always loved numbers and measurements and how things work. And so once my wife and I got married, we got an apartment and it had a garage in it. And so I was like, I'm going to buy some tools / get some tools that are over at my dad's house that are mine. So started doing that, started building, some, because we didn't have a ton of furniture. So I started building a little bit of furniture for, coffee table here, bedside table there, just building some stuff instead of, looking to see how much it was. You're like, that's how much a table is? I'm like, I could build that. And so, started off, building probably 2014, 15, started doing a little bit here and there. And then, some people I started building for the house. And once we got the house, we had tons of rooms that needed furniture. And so I started doing that. And then when we bought the house, it was a complete fixer-upper. And so just going room by room and fixing things and teaching myself different trades, and it's grown kind of into what it is today where, I've done patios. I'm supposed to build a full-fledged patio for a guy probably later this week. And then the shed I'm in right now, I built it. It's pretty much a tiny home. It's my wife's shed where she does hair and makeup. So it's a 20 by 10 slanted roof one. And that was probably the one I learned the most on because it was pretty much a house. It's got air conditioner, electrical, it's got everything in here. So doing that and seeing if maybe after baseball I want to flip homes or go into the construction world, general contract. I don't really know yet. So just kind of teaching myself everything I can. And yeah, you're saying you can go to Bach Design Co. It's BAWK Design Co. on Facebook, Instagram. Pretty much Instagram is what I do. And I don't post near enough as all the stuff I build. I probably should be better at that. But when you're busy with 2 kids, get what you can.
I can only imagine. So who is your favorite person in that world, whether it's like an HGTV star or someone else? Like, who do you kind of look up to, and who are you really a big fan of?
There's a couple of them. I mean, for like building wise, or like furniture stuff, there's a guy named Rogue Engineer on Instagram. He's amazing. And then obviously for like flipping and stuff is Chip Gaines. You know, Chip and Joanna from Fixer Upper. Like, he's right down the road. That's like the one guy I'd love to meet. And me and him I feel like watching there is so much alike. Just, you know, my wife always laughs at that too, because we're just goofy, and we're both goofy and just do random things and say random things. And, you know, there's not much he can't do. And then I try to become that guy who can fix anything around the house. You know, there's no trade I can't do. But definitely Chip Gaines though. So
I am not in that world at all, but I know who they are. I know who Chip and Joanna are. But I'm going to ask you this, and I've never said this out loud, but I've thought it in my head for a while, and only a few people who are watching this will get it. Do you think Clayton McCullough, who is the Dodgers field coordinator, looks like Chip Gaines? Because I think they're almost identical.
Even that. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. I've never thought about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's say Chip may be a little taller than Clayton.
Okay. I've never seen Chip in person, so I don't know.
He's probably like 5'10", 11. They're probably pretty similar. I just wanted to mess with Clayton.
Okay. So we're going to get into some fan questions now that were submitted on social media, and you did get a few. So the first one wants to know, because obviously you mentioned you like to golf a lot too. What's the best golf course you've ever played?
Best golf course? It's probably a toss-up between two drastically different ones. Probably Chambers Bay in Tacoma, where they played the U.S. Open. That's probably one of the cool. Crap, now I got like three. That one, and then this off-season in the Dominican, Teeth of the Dog. There in La Romana, it's beautiful. Like, I think 7 or 8 holes are carved into the side of the ocean, the water there. I mean, it was beautiful. And then Silverleaf in Scottsdale. Oh my gosh, it's fully private, but it's pretty beautiful.
Yeah, you mentioned Chambers Bay, and I'm not a golfer at all, but I know every time we go to Tacoma, you always hear guys talking about how they're hoping to play there and get to play there and all that stuff. Another question we got is, what has baseball taught you the most about yourself?
To fail. I mean, you fail so much in baseball, and you know, I feel like if I didn't have that, I would probably get down a lot quicker in life. Like when, you know, you get punched in the face, especially like all this COVID stuff, like, you know, I feel like it would have brought me to my knees, but just knowing that, you know, you're going to fail in life, it's inevitable. It's just how you're going to react to it. And so being able to, you know, make changes and go with the flow and figure things out and, you know, make adjustments like you do in baseball. I mean, you fail and you make adjustments. That's baseball. So, definitely failure. I mean, you're going to fail 70% of the time, and you're, you know, Hall of Famer. So just get used to failing and learn, adjust, and grow from it. So.
The last one, and I recognize this name because I've seen him also playing the PCL. I know he was your college teammate from Preston Beck 5 on Instagram.
Oh, gosh.
What is the best way to plant a tomato plant?
Probably plant the seed first.
I figured that was an inside joke or something, but
I don't know.
Okay.
He's a wild card. You never know what's going to come out of that guy's mouth. That's why he's hilarious. So I'm going to have to shoot him a text after this and ask him the question.
Okay.
Yeah, I would assume plant the seed and let it grow, because I think they grow up a trellis or something. Or I think you plant them upside down. I've seen before. I don't know. I feel like my mom's done it before.
Okay. All right. Well, certainly a unique question, and we're going to wrap things up. But, Logan, we thank you so much for taking the time again. And I'm going to embarrass Logan a little bit here. If the people who've watched this series, we've talked to a lot of people in the Dodgers organization and just the overwhelming quality of the people. And I know my opinion's not the end-all, be-all, but Logan really is the epitome of that. So, you're a great guy, great person to always be around. It's always been great when he's rejoined the team. So certainly, again, really, to sound a little bit corny, kind of the embodiment of the Dodger way. So Logan, we thank you so much for taking the time today and everything you've done during your time previously in Oklahoma City. And and we certainly hope we will see you on the baseball field sometime soon.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate those words. Thanks. Take care.
All right, and that will conclude another edition of Dodger Dialogue. As always, we thank you for joining us, and we encourage you to stay safe and visit our website and social media to keep up with the latest updates on the 2020 season.